friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using Lawn Fawn's Pool Party and On the Beach. So I've stamped out the images I'll be using on Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth Premium White cardstock with Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink, and I'll be coloring with my Copic markers. So I wasn't sure what color I wanted my cats to be, so I decided to skip over them today and go straight into my accessory images. So I'm starting with this round floaty, and I wanted a few of the stripes to be pink, so I chose RV04, RV06, and RV09 for those. And I'm making sure to put that RV09 right up next to the line so it looks like the plastic is kind of indented there, and then the highlight being in the center is going to make it look kind of pushed out from the air. I also colored the lid of my suntan lotion, and I'm going to do another stripe on the beach ball as well. I want to have a similar color palette going throughout this card to tie all of my images together. I'm also going to do one of the stripes on this towel, but I actually wanted it to be one of those raft style floaties. So I'm doing the same thing that I did for the round floaty, and I am putting those darkest shadows right up next to the artist drawn lines and making sure to have a nice highlight in the center to make it look really puffed out where it would be catching the sunlight. My next color is going to be orange, and I chose YR04, YR07, and YR09. I wanted super bright, fun, summery colors for this card, so I went with super bright oranges. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just skipping over two, so this round floaty is going to be pink, white, and orange. So I laid in those shades, and then I'm also going to do another stripe on the beach ball. For that one, I'm just using the YR09 and then the YR04 because it was such a small sliver of space. I will also do another stripe on this raft style floaty, again putting that YR09 up next to the black lines, and then blending carefully over the edge of that toward the center, and then using the YR04 as my highlight shade. I am also going to color the base of my flip-flops to be orange. So I'm just going back to that first shade, the YR09, and shading those on the outside edges, blending toward the middle with the YR07, and then I'll use the YR04 on the inside edge of each of those flip-flops. And I'll also do the little sun on the SPF. Just use the YR09 and then the YR04 for that. And I'll do the mouthpiece on the goggles and snorkel tube. Then I'm going to add in some greens, and I wanted to go with some vibrant, bright yellow greens. So I chose YG21, YG23, and YG25. And I'm going to do another stripe on that floaty, just doing it exactly the same as I've done all the rest, making sure that I have that nice highlight. It's going to make that plastic look kind of puffed out, and also having those super bright colors I think makes it look more plasticky as well. I'll do another stripe on the beach ball, and then I'm going to do the snorkel, the outer edge of that frame. Use the YG25 at the top and then on the inside of the nose piece and the bottom of the breathing tube, and then I skipped down to the YG21 to blend that out. And I also am going to do the straps of my flip-flops with just the YG25 and then the YG21. My next combo is BG11, BG45, and BG49, and I will do the final stripe on my raft floaty. And the BG11 and the BG45, they are pretty far apart, but in such a small space like this, they do work together. So I'm just going over that. I wanted a nice bright highlight for that center, like I've mentioned. And then I'm also going to do the little center on the beach ball with those darkest two shades, and I'm going to do the suntan lotion bottle with those darkest two shades as well. Just blending that out with the BG45 after first laying in the BG49. For the little splash marks over on the right hand side, I'm going to just use the lighter two shades. So I'm adding a little shadow with the BG45 and then blending that out really well with the BG11. And then I'll keep the BG11 but add in the BG10 to do the white stripes on the round floaty. So just adding a little stripe of that BG11 and then blending that out with the BG10 and letting that fade into the white cardstock as the highlight. I'm also going to use the BG11 and BG10 to do the label on the bottle of suntan lotion and the white stripes on the beach ball. And I'm also going to use the same two shades to do the little speech bubble there. Just blending that out toward the center. I got a little bit too much of that BG10 there, so I did grab my colorless blender to kind of push that back, and then just went over the white parts with my colorless blender as well to help fade that. And then I did do a little BG10 on the goggles. Then I decided that I was going to do my cats in cool grays. I wanted the coloring of the accessory images to really stand out, so I thought going with really soft neutral tones for the cats would help those to just be able to shine. So I used C0, C1, and C3 for this little cat, and I'm leaving the center of his face and his belly to be a little bit white for a highlight. And then the second cat I decided to do just a shade lighter, so I'm going to leave off the C3 and just use the C1 and the C0. So just really quick and easy. So this guy almost looks like a white kitty, just has a little bit of shading on him. I let those dry for maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and then I'm going to go in and add some details with one shade darker than the darkest shade I used on each one of them. So for this little kitty, his darkest was the C3, so I'm going to bump it up to a C5 to do his little stripes. And I'm just doing long, thin triangles on his head and his arms, his belly, his legs, and his tail. And then for the lighter kitty, I'm going to use the C3 because the darkest on him was the C1. And I wanted to kind of change it up, so I only did 2 stripes on his forehead and 3 stripes on his belly, so they each have a little bit of uniqueness to them. And then I'm going to go down his legs and add some stripes to his tail as well. Then I wanted to add in some rosy cheeks and also color their noses, so I used R11 and R20 for that. R20 for the noses and on the cheeks, and then a little R11 to help soften the cheek into the fur. And then I'm going to trim all of these images out with their matching dies. Next, I wanted to create a swimming pool for these cool cats to relax in. So I'm actually taking a piece of pattern paper from the All the Dots 6x6 that I want to use for the bottom of my pool. I'm going to die cut that using the Stitch Pond die, and then I want to add some inking to that to help it look like the bottom of a pool. So I'm using some Salvage Patina Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to bring that in from all the sides and make sure that that is a little bit heavier on the outer edge, and then it's going to fade into just the plain pattern paper in the center. Just being really careful not to bend that up because it is just a thin piece of pattern paper, so it is fairly delicate. So I'm just taking that all the way around the outside edge, and then I can set that piece aside. And I'm going to bring in a dolphin card base. So that's just scored and folded to a standard A2 size card. And I'm going to use the brick stencil directly onto that card front. and I'll be blending on some Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink because I want it to look like the kind of like the patio around the pool. So I'm purposely being more and less heavy-handed with that ink blending tool because I want some variation in my bricks. So sometimes I'm pushing down fairly hard and then other times I'm lifting up just so I get a little bit of variation in each one. I'm holding that down firmly with my hand, but you could absolutely tape that down if you prefer. And I don't really need to do the center of the card because the pool is going to cover that up. So just working my way around the outside edges. And then I'm going to bring in a bit more ink on the 4 sides to just darken that up a bit and add some more contrast and just frame up this scene a little bit better. Then I wanted to give this a little bit more of a rustic look. So I'm actually going to press some of that Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink onto an acrylic block, add a bit of water, and do some splatter detail all over that card front, just to help it look a bit more like bricks or stones and give it a bit more detail as well. And then once I'm happy with the amount of splatters that I have on there, I'm going to set this card front aside to dry. And in the meantime, I'm going to take the Stitch Pond frame and die cut that out of some mermaid cardstock. And I'll also take a piece of acetate and die cut the Stitch Pond out of that. Then I'm going to take some 1/8 of an inch score tape and run that all around the inside of that Stitch Pond frame. And then I can peel off the release paper so that it will be nice and sticky. Just trying to get my fingernail under that to get it started. And then I'm going to line that up right over the acetate. And I can adhere that down once I have that positioned just right. Then I'm going to take some foam tape, some Scotch 3M foam tape, and I've cut that down into a very thin strip. And I will follow my way around that frame once again because I wanted to make a shaker card. I haven't done a shaker card in a really long time, and I just thought it would be really fun with this pool scene to add a little bit of sparkle into the water. So again, I'm just working my way carefully around that pond, using a really long strip because I don't want there to be any gaps in my foam tape. That way nothing can leak out. So once I have that butted up against the previous one, I'll just tear that off. And then I've got a bunch of glitter to add. So I have some Prisma glitter from Lawn Fawn. And before I add that, I just wanted to add a little bit of this powder tool from Rabbit Hole Designs to eliminate some static cling so that the shaker material will move freely. So I can go ahead and add that Prisma glitter. And then I'm going to use some chunky glitter as well. So I'm just tapping that off gently so that I can get a nice little bit in there. I don't want to overfill it, and I'm also not using anything bulky that wouldn't be able to move freely. I'm adding some Studio Katia iridescent hearts as well. If you wanted to use something thicker like sequins, you might want to double up on your foam tape. But I like to keep my cards as flat as possible just because it really helps with the mailing process not to get like all wrinkled up. So I just peeled off the release tape and then I'm going to line up that pattern paper piece right over top. And then when I flip that over, I have my little shaker bit there. You can see all of that material moving around freely in there. Next, I wanted to work on my sentiment, so I'm stamping in peacock ink, and I'm building a sentiment from Pool Party that says, "Have a relaxing birthday." I've been really short of birthday cards lately. Those are the ones that sell the best in my little basket at work, so I need more birthday cards. So I decided to make this a birthday scene. I'm also going to finish off the inside of my card, so I just pop that open and I'm stamping the little round floaty and some wave lines and the sentiment "Take It Slow," again in that peacock ink. So now I'm ready to start assembling my card. So I'm going to first take that pool shaker mechanism, add some liquid glue to the back of that, get that situated how I want it on the card front, and then I will just press that down into place gently. Next, I'm adding my round floaty, and I am using liquid glue for these. The glue that I have, this Barely Art glue, it dries super fast, so you have a little bit of wiggle room on that slick surface to position it, but it does dry really fast. If you're working with a glue that doesn't dry really fast on a slick surface, you may want to use score tape to adhere your images. So I'm going to put one of these kitties on the round floaty. I just turn that a little bit so I can make sure to get the most color showing on the outside edges. And then the second kitty is going to go on this raft style floaty. And again, just adjusting to try to get the most color to show. And then I also wanted this little beach ball to be floating in the water, so I'm going to add that down toward the bottom. I also have this speech bubble that I stamped Stay Cool in. There's a few different options for that sentiment, and I put that next to the kitty on the left, and then I'm going to add a little splash mark on either side of each of those kitties. And then I was trying to decide if I wanted to add the goggles to the face of one of the kitties or if I wanted to use them on the side, and I couldn't figure it out just yet, so I decided to move on to my sentiment. So I trimmed that down with an everyday sentiment banner, and I am going to add some foam tape to the back of that so that it will be popped up. So I'm just using some of the leftover thin strips that I cut down from lining my pool for the shaker. And I will adhere that down at the bottom left of the card so that the end of the flag is kind of overlapping the edge of the pool a little bit, and I just trimmed off the excess. And then I have these last couple images, and I was just trying to figure out exactly where I wanted to have them on the card, if I wanted to spread them out on all the corners or if I wanted to create a little cluster. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but ultimately I did decide to go ahead and add the snorkel gear to the kitty. I just thought it was too cute not to add, so I went ahead and put that on his face. And then the little suntan lotion and flip-flops I'm going to put in that top left corner. That one was the most empty, so it just seemed to make sense to have those extra images up there. But I did want to do something to kind of fill in the rest of the patio space. So I am going to add some little dewdrops. I can't remember what they're called, but they just look like little drops of water. So I'm going to pick those up with my Studio Katia embellishment wand, and I'll just add a drop of glue and then set them down into place. And they do look a little bit milky now, but that glue does dry crystal clear, so you'll be able to see through them completely later on. But I'm just going to work my way around the pool and add a few splashes here and there, just to look like little bits of standing water. So I have the 4 and the 6 millimeter size, and I'm just doing a combination of both. And that is going to finish this one off. So there is another peek at the inside, and then I'll give that a shake so you can see all of that material in action. I think it does add a nice touch to the water and just gives it a nice sparkly effect. Plus it's just really fun to shake. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, ring that notification bell so you never miss a video. If you're interested in any of these products, I'll have everything listed and linked for you in the description bar below. And if you'd like to keep watching, here are 2 extra videos I thought you might also enjoy. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time with me today. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.